Welcome to your Daily 5 for Thursday, August 10th, 2023. If you've listened to the show for a while, you have probably heard more than a few fives where I have complained, it's the only really word for it, about the frequency of broken games that are released by major publishers. Now, I want to make an important distinction that I think it's more of the publishers and the companies that own these game IPs than the actual developers, but nonetheless, these games get released, and in many cases, if not most cases, AAA titles have massive one-day patches. We've seen games that get released with severe bugs that make them literally or functionally unplayable, say Cyberpunk 2077's release on what was referred to at the time as legacy hardware, where there was clearly a very deceptive campaign to avoid talking about how badly the game ran, to the point where Sony delisted it from its store, a highly unusual occurrence. But it's not like that is the only thing. It's far from it. There's also small bugs that pile up. Bethesda. Now, I've played lots of Bethesda games and probably will at least for the foreseeable future, but there is no denying that those games, in fact, they are known for being highly prone to bugs and having technical flaws. Many people have regarded those as charming, but it is nonetheless the case that the games do not often ship in a complete or completely functional state. And so, if you follow video game news, you may have seen a story about a game called WrestleQuest from what I understand is an independent developer called Mad Cat, I believe is the company's name. They were set to release their game 2 days ago on August 8th, on Tuesday, which is a common release date for lots of media. And from what I read, 3 or 4 hours before the actual planned unlocking and releasing of the game, they discovered a problem where if players were playing the game on multiple devices, and I don't have all the technical background, but that's the general description on the article that I'm going to link here, that it would potentially result in an erasure of the player's save game, or it could result in one. Not necessarily would, not saying it was a likelihood, but that it could happen where a save will get erased, which is probably some type of, if I had to guess, a cloud syncing or some other synchronization thing because they're referring to multiple devices. But whatever it is, doesn't matter. The developer decided not to release the game and has postponed it for, right now they're saying 2 weeks. Now, it could go longer, it could be shorter if they discover an easy fix. No reason to think that they wouldn't unlock it early. But right now they're targeting about a 2-week fix time. So they may have some idea of what's going on. And they think that's how long they'll need to solve it. Regardless, this is a great thing. A developer found a problem. Not that there was a problem. That's not great. But the reality is software is like that. What's great about it is that rather than release it in the state that it was in, which they could have done. They could have aimed to have a patch and they could have warned people, don't play it on multiple devices. We've seen that with other things where someone will cover up a bug or they will call it a mitigation of the bug by telling you to only play or use software in a specific way till they can figure it out. But rather than do that, which, some players may have been fine with, but it probably would have been very irritating to others who bought it on the idea of playing it on multiple devices. Rather than do that, rather than have a bad fix with quotes around it that really was making the user use something in a certain way, a way other than what was promised by the release, they decided not to release a damaged product. And imagine if bigger titles would do things like that, where you didn't have to worry about 15 patches for the week after a game came out, or a huge, massive patch, or in some cases, games that will not play without that first day patch, which I've seen not a lot of, but I've seen it here and there. Imagine if, instead of it being about pre-orders and release dates, it was about the quality of the product. If more games followed the example that these developers did, then I think games in general would have it would engender more trust in people and would ultimately, here's the irony of it, ultimately probably result in better sales over the long run, because when you trust a developer and a publisher, when you can rely on a game being something that you could buy and have at least a good amount of faith, you can't avoid everything, but a good amount of faith that what you're going to get is going to be a functional and fully working game, then you will be more inclined to buy from those people the next time. Now, of course, companies like Bethesda, who have had notoriously buggy games, have sold anyway. I think that's more on the strength of the IP than people think that they're really a good developer. But overall, something like this, an approach like this, where the prioritization is we want people to have a product that works, that in the long run is going to pay off more than saying, well, we made our day one sales numbers, we made our pre-release numbers, so who cares what the actual play is like? So I wanted to highlight this because I think it's a great example of how more video games should be released, or in this case, not released later.